Okay, the last session that we had, I went over that word Schweja with you. I pronounced the word Schweja, the word that translates to Sweden. I also put the word on the board and mentioned that the word, from the point of view of Hebrew grammar, could be read as Shvediya, where the tsere is underneath the, as I double check the word, underneath the vav letter can be an open syllable, so Shve, and then the Shva underneath the Dalet is a.
What page are you on in the book?
Okay, I'm looking at page 20, and it's the second line on the page on the right-hand side. Shavedia. In fact, probably it's much better if I write the word on the board for those who may not have a text in front of them. The word itself is a borrowed word into Hebrew. The word translates for Sweden, and if I just see the word as a Hebrew word and not a borrowed word, then the syllabication will go like this. The first letter is the shin letter. The shvan means the first letter is treated as a shvana. I then continue with the second combination. The vav has a tsere under it. And whenever you see a vowel, including the half vowels, you stop, you say, is it an open syllable, closed syllable? What's going on here? In the case of a tsere, it's a medial vowel. Medial vowels, we mentioned multiple times, are either open syllable or closed syllable. We also mentioned that the medial vowel attracts the accent, particularly if it's a medial cholam. Medial tsere is also in that category, but not all the time. And the medial kamatz is either accented or one place removed from the accent. So whether it's accented or not is not the issue right now. The syllable could be open, shve. A medial tsere open syllable is regular. And if that is so, then the second syllable, as you see me syllabicate, begins with the dalet, has a shva under it, treated like a shvana. Then you continue with the yud, the kamatz, and then we mentioned if a word ends with the last letter hey, it is often seen, always seen for our purposes, as a vowel marker. And if that's so, we put the letter C in brackets, implying it's not a real consonant, it's a marker of the sound of ah in this case. That's the way to read it from a Hebrew perspective, shvei dia. And you also will notice that the dollar letter is one of the 6 Bega Kefa letters, which are not plosive if they follow any vowel, and indeed the dollar is following its herit. Now, shift forward, and you have Israeli speech. Israeli speech seems to pronounce the word as shved. Watch what I'm doing right now. I'm spelling the word the same way, but they break it this way, shveja. Now, how is it that Israeli speech says shveja, and it has shveja, and the Hebrew syllabication grammatically could be shvedia? Again, it is pronunciation. It is contemporary Hebrew. It is slang Hebrew. And even more important, it's a borrowed word. So if a word is borrowed, it can be distorted one way or another. It doesn't make that much of a difference. It's not a legitimate Hebrew word, you might say. So if you go with the word shveja, then you break your syllable as C-ion, then CVC. In this case, the shva treated as a shvanach, not as a shvana. And then you have the CV with a C in brackets to be your last syllable. In any case, the word Sweden. You take that word Sweden in English, and I guess you get the word Schweja. And let's try to see that. Sweden is spelled in English Sweden. That S letter is transferred to Hebrew as a shin letter, not as a sin letter. The W letter is the vav letter in Hebrew. Remember when we gave you the table of consonants? The vav originally is a W sound. It's treated that way as a bilabial. It's not treated as a V sound, even though it's pronounced that way today by everybody. So that's where you get the W transcribed as a vav. And then the D sound is your dalet. You get rid of your syllable, you get rid of your vowels, and then you have finally the letter N. And I guess in the case of the letter N, we have the ya in the here in Hebrew. But that's how the words sound similar. Okay, with that said, let me now continue. I'm looking at page, as I get my mishkafayim on my nose bridge here, on page 20. and the exercise called Drill 7. The first word catches my attention immediately. It's a word that hops around. It's a word that's part of the famous 10 plagues. If anybody knows anything about Judaism, they know the word Ten Commandments, they know the word Passover, they know the word the Ten Makot, the 10 plagues. And one of these plagues jumping around the Passover table is the plague of the frogs, I guess, where the land of Egypt was once plagued by an incredible amount, numberless amount of little hoppers known as the frog. The frog is very interesting. And so let's look at its Hebrew. Watch how I write the word down. It's important that we know the vowels. The tzadi, and then I continue to write. And when you see that word, it looks very peculiar. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters to it. Normally, Hebrew words are 2 letters, 3 letters is probably the normative one. And then when you go to 4 or 5, it gets a little more complicated, particularly if the letters are not the same. Svardeya has 5 letters which are different. How come? We'll try to explain that later. As I begin to do my syllabication, the tzadi letter, not the tzadik, the tzadi letter has a shvana under it. A shva in the first letter is always a shvana. I then look at the next letter, and what you need to do is go over again and again your review. The next letter is one of the 6 Bega Kefa letters, which get a dot in it if they begin a word or if they follow a consonant. In the case of the pei letter, you'll notice it's not a pei, it's a fei, because it's following not a consonant, but it's following a vowel, not a complete vowel, but a half vowel. That's what will somehow open up that plosivity and make it a continuous sound. It's not tzidbarteya.
Espana is considered a half vowel?
That's right. The shvana is called a half vowels. The half vowels, again, are the shvana. That's for all letters. But if the letter above it happens to be a laryngeal letter, the aleph, the ayin, the hey, the het, then that shvana is not possible, and it will be converted to either a sound with an a patach, or a sound with a segol, a chataf seko it's called, or a sound with a short kamatz, a chataf kamatz.
And those are also like half sounds or something like that as well?
They are what?
What are they called? Half sounds?
They're called half vowels if you want. They're called shvana, chatafim. The Hebrew word is chataf. Chataf. And then you add, is it the sound of the patach? So chataf patach. Let's make sure we get the right spelling here. Let's do it properly. Is it a kamatz? Or is it a segum? And that's how you qualify it. You see the word as a chataf. That's the half. And then what sound is given to the half? Is it an ah sound, the patach? Is it an or sound, the kamatz? Or is it the s sound, the segum? The tzadi is not laryngeal letter. All other letters of Hebrew can take the shvana. The pei letter becomes a fei letter because the Bega Kefa letters don't get a dagesh kal unless they begin a word or follow a consonant directly. This guy is following a half vowel. And then we continue. Underneath that pei letter or fei letter now, you have C, I, well, then you continue. You have C, then you have V. Well, before we even go that far, why not end your end your syllable as consonant ayin? We did not give you a syllable of a consonant with a shvana. The syllables are consonant and a vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant, and then consonant ayin's consonant, vowel, consonant ayin, consonant, vowel, consonant. And then if you're lucky, you might have an unusual syllable, consonant, ayin, consonant, vowel, consonant. And those words occur, but not that often, or syllables occur. As I continue with this word, I have C, ayin, I have then C, I have V, A patak should be part of a closed syllable, and I look for a closing feature. I look for the next letter to have a strong dot in it. The resh is one of the 5 letters that do never receive the dagesh chazak for our purposes. The 4 laryngals and the liquid letter resh. And I'll talk about the liquid letter in a second. But there's underneath the resh a shva. And so the rule in Hebrew is, if you see a shva in the middle of a word, meaning not the first letter and not the last letter, if you see a shva in the middle of a word under a letter which follows a short vowel, trust the shva to be a shvanach. And that's what we have here. Svar, C-I-N-C-V-C.
So it would that closes a syllable, or does it go down to make?
It's a close syllable. No, it's a close syllable.
So it would be safar rather
Safar,
than
safar.
safar. But if it was another instance, it would be safare. If it were to be pronounced. In the instance where the colon were to be pronounced, I forget.
I'm not sure what you're saying. If you see the way the word is composed, sfar, that's the syllable, C-I-N-C-V-C.
The question is underneath the resh. When is that actually sounded?
If there's a sound.
That's the question.
No, the word is sfar. The resh has no sound to it. It's a silent. There's no vowel under it. The resh is just a constant. It's like writing it this way.
So that's just closing the syllable?
That's all it does. If the resh had any marker under it, which is meant to be a sound of a vowel, then you would see it. So the question could be raised, I think I was raising this multiple times. Well, how do I know that that particular shva is not a sounding shva like a shvana? How do I not know that I should not say tzivarideya? And watch now how I examine it. If this were really a shvana, then why is there a dagesh in the dalet? Is that dagesh a strong dot? If so, then it has to close a short vowel. This is not a short vowel if this is seen as a half vowel shvana.
And so the dalet doubles the dalet, so da.
If the dalet, yes, if it were a dagesh chazak. But again, the reason, how do I know that this is not a shvana? It has to be a silent shva. By virtue of a dot in that dalet, that gives it away. And by virtue of the fact that I have a short vowel, if this indeed is a shvana, then how am I going to close that first syllable? I'm going to have to say it's C-I-N-C-V. A short vowel, patak, open syllable is not possible, it has to be accented. So if I put the accent here, then what am I going to do with a syllable that does it say right here, which attracts the accent? There are multiple ways to get out of the dilemma of what if and what if. And I'm glad you're raising the questions. And I'm going to go over every question you ask with, again, the same basic knowledge of Hebrew. So let's get that word back on the board again, because this word is not even completed yet. That first syllable, I think I now made it very clear. I said at the very beginning, make sure you write your words down with the proper vocalization. If you don't have the right vowels there, you're going to be thrown completely. That's the problem when you write Hebrew without vowels. You don't see the vowels at all. But then again, a spoken Hebrew is not interested in grammatical knowledge in that sense. Back to our syllabication, C-I-N-C-V-C, C-I-N-C-V, and enclosed by that resh with a shvanach under it. Second syllable, notice the dagesh in that dalet. That dagesh in that dalet is not closing a short vowel. It is following a consonant. And the question I've asked multiple times is, if it's following a consonant, why not write it out that way? Why do you have to put a marker like this there? How much more so with that marker being confused with a marker called a shvana? The only answer I can give is one of the teachings of rabbinic sages of old. It's called empathy. Empathy means sympathy. Sympathy means don't castigate, don't criticize, don't condense, don't smash your opponent. Show empathy and sympathy and win him over. That poor letter resh if it has nothing associated with it, looks like an orphan. I'm using rabbinic language now. It needs a companion. And so we just put the shva there. It's beautiful teaching, but does it have to affect grammar this way? And for the ancient sages, every letter needs to have a companion. And from that you read, every animal needs a friend. How much more so a human being? Loneliness is very hard. People, I can give you example after example that qualifies how true that type of teaching is. And so if you're by yourself, Hashem will be with me. If so, then why are you so lonely? You understand, an argument can go around and around. That's what we're doing here with Slavication as well. And we finally give you the edict. If you have a beggar kefir letter following a consonant, saying the same thing as following a shvanach, you make it plosive. And then we have CV. Watch what I'm doing.
Plosive means it's double sound?
Excuse me?
Plosive means it's double
Plosive
sound?
is doubling the letter.
So you pronounce it as there were two delets, da, they, da.
If that dot is a dagesh chazak, then it doubles the letter. It's like any letter that gets a dagesh chazak, which follows again a short vowel.
Then there's a dagesh hashak, and then there's the other
Dagesh kal.
And then the instance of the other one in reference to this.
No, the dagesh kal. One second. The Beka Kefir letters receive the dagesh chazak. All letters of Hebrew receive the dagesh chazak, except the four letters of laryngeal and the resh. The dagesh chazak is in any letter for the purpose of doubling that letter to close a short vowel before it to start the next syllable. A dagesh kal is just a tradition with only 6 letters, and they're in certain positions if they begin a word or if they follow a consonant in the middle of a word. Just these 6 letters. And then, as we mentioned to you, the bet letter with a dot in it, and the bet without it is a vet. For Israeli Hebrew, the gimel, the dalet, and the letter tav, these letters don't have a distinctive sound, whether they have a dot in it or they don't have a dot. The kav letter versus the chav letter does. The pei letter versus the fei letter does. So Israeli Hebrew will have 3 of the 6 letters without the dagesh. The pronunciation would be the same whether it's a dagesh or not in that letter. And we're not talking chazak now, we're talking dagesh kal. If that's so, then get rid of the 3 letters from the alphabet or from this concept. But you just don't do that. It's like in English, I've said many times, the letter X has no function anymore. It's either an S sound or it's an S sound or a K sound, I guess. So if I have the word 6, I'm really giving a KS at the end. There's no special sound to the X. Same thing is true of the letter C. C is either a K sound or an S sound. Rice, it's an S sound. Cat, it's a K sound. But we leave the letters in the alphabet. Why so? If any reason, because at one time these letters had a function. They had a special sound to them. Back to the word Svardea. Notice what I'm doing. I'm doing CV. I would say to myself, should it not be a syllable? A seré letter, or rather a seré vowel, open syllable is regular. Now watch the logic. If that is so, then the next syllable, watch, is CV, which I have a patach, short vowel, open syllable, and that's irregular, gets an accent. But what about the tsere? The tsere draws the accent as well. Do I have 2 accents in one word? Impossible. And here is where new knowledge comes in. The new knowledge is the phenomenon of the stolen patach. Get down the phrase stolen patach, meaning a patach that's not legitimately there. It's stolen. Stolen is the term used. In Hebrew, it's called patach ganuv. Patach is the name of the vowel. Ganuv, from the Hebrew word to steal, stolen. And notice how I vocalize. The gimel letter begins a word, plosive letter, dagesh kal. The vet letter over here is not with a dagesh kal or chazak. It's following a long vowel. It therefore becomes continuant rather than plosive. The accent is on the second syllable, ganuv. CV is the first syllable, and CVC is the second. Again, the media kamatz is either accented or one place removed from the accent. The shuruk is a long vowel. Long vowels closed are irregular, should be accented. That's what you need to do for repetition.
The shuruk is the oo sound, right?
Yes.
But I noticed that sometimes on the yud it has the dot, and the dot would be
That's because the chirik before is a short chirik, and that yud is being doubled. Otherwise, when you see a chirik followed by the yud, you assume it's a long chirik. Not necessarily so.
Did you pick that on the board, that other instance? Where the long hair?
You want an example with the yuds? Okay. Yeah, just 1 minute now.
For the viewers.
It's going to have to be a way of thinking about this first. I'm not sure words. Okay, the word shear. Okay, the word shear comes to mind for a long yud. You got the shin letter, you got a chirik, and a yud that follows. There's no shva underneath the yud. There's no dagesh in that yud. You assume it's a long chirik. CVC.
But my question was a word that would have.
You want a word with a dot in the yud. I'm trying to think of it. Baruch, I heard you.
That easy to come to mind.
Well, it's not the word with a dot in the yud. Doesn't just come boom, boom, boom to me.
Right.
All right, just 1 second now.
If not, we'll come back to it.
Otherwise, when we see something, we'll come back to it. But anyway, this is the case. The long chirik is a dot, a dot, whatever I'm going to tell you. A chirik underneath the letter, followed by the yud. Nothing associated with the yud, no shva under it, and no dagesh in that yud. That's a long chirik. And when I come across a word where the yud has a dot in it, we'll call it to your attention. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, we probably have seen a word like that. Just 1 minute. No. It's a question of just being a little patient with it. Let me just see if she has some of these words here. She probably does not, but somehow, for whatever reason, no, I'm just going to just very quickly look at some of these words here. Okay, when we come across a word, I will so indicate that to you. Okay, let's just go ahead now. All right, I'm back to that word Svardeya. I'm still not finished with it. The stolen patach. The stolen patach phenomenon, the patach ganuv, occurs with the following. If the last letter of a word ends with the letter ayin, ends with the letter chet, the letter hey and the letter aleph are disconnected. That doesn't affect these two letters. These two laryngeals. And if the vowel before is a frontal vowel, what is meant by the term frontal is all the vowels of Hebrew except the ah sounding vowels, the patach and the kamatz. These are the ah.
Include the half vowels as well or not?
No. Just listen. The so-called ah sounding vowels will not have this problem. But if you have any other vowel on the sound before the last letter ayin or the last letter het, which is frontal, this is not an ah sound, that's an a sound, then you have the phenomenon of stolen patach. The word stolen comes from the following understanding. It's not a true vowel. It is how we said Hebrew back in the day, where an ah sound comes in to capture the letter in the throat, suggesting that the I letter is so inaudible, you have to somehow deeply go into the throat. Well, the same thing can be said to the aleph, but the aleph doesn't get affected by this, I guess. Whereas the chet letter can easily be said. Anyway, the phenomenon deals with the last letter ayin or chet, preceded by a vowel that's frontal. And we have the sound before the last letter. The word is tzfardea, not the way you see it spelled. The way you see it spelled, you would think you pronounce the word as tzfardea. The ah is sounded before the last letter, not after the last letter. The ah is not a real vowel, it's a glide. And perhaps a better example to hear that is the word for wind or spirit. Notice how I write it? Notice how I write it? The syllabication is CVC. This patach is not a legitimate vowel. It's a glide from the U sound to the het. The word is pronounced not rucha, but ruach, ruach, ruach. And proper writing of that ruach should be like this. And now the issue, why not write it that way? Again, I said something before, gets repeated this time with another example. This little vowel dangling by itself without a consonant is not going to work. Just like the letter, or just like the shvanach. The shvanach is added to a consonant to give the consonant a little companion. This patach on its own looks very much like an orphan. So we write it underneath the last letter, but it also is not a true vowel. It's a sound symbol. And when you break into syllabication, you don't bother to syllabicate that as a vowel. You write simply CVC. And then you write a note that the patach underneath the het is a stolen patach. Anyway, the word tzfardea. It's spelled the way you see it. This patach is not a real vowel, so you don't indicate it in your syllabication. So the last syllable is CVC. Get it? CVC. And then you make a special note. This is an addendum. It's a sound that's not really part of the consonants that make up the word. Okay, tzfardea. As I still continue with words, the word that now follows is, let's just get a word, the word tzachok, for example. Tzachok, the Hebrew word for laughter. Tzachok. As I write the word tzachok on the board, tzachok. Again, to make sure your spelling is accurate, always check the printed word. Tzachok. Tzachok looks like it has 3 letters to it, but it's really a monosyllabic word. You have the tzadi, the shvani, the first letter is always a shvana. Then you continue with the chet letter, the vowel is a long cholam, and then finally the kuf letter at the end. CINCVC. Okay, here's an example of what seems to be a syllable beyond CV and CVC. This is CINCVC. The word tzedakah is another word found in this particular exercise. Tzedakah. First thing you do is make sure you write out the word properly. Tzedakah. The fact that there are sounds to the word tzedakah, don't assume they're patachs. Just check the spelling. Tzedakah has C-ayin. Next combination is dalet with a kamatz. Notice the dalet has no dagesh kal in it because it's following a vowel, including a half vowel. It has in a dagesh chazak because it's not following a short vowel. So it's just regular continuance. It's not plosive. It's not the strong forte. It's a continuance sound. CI and CV is the first syllable, and the second syllable is CV, with the understanding the last letter hey is not a true vowel. It's a vowel marker, so we put the C in brackets. The root of that word tzedakah is tzadi dalakuf. And anything that has this root deals with righteousness or the word justice. Famous Hebrew phrase in the Bible, tzedek, tzedek, justice, justice, you are to pursue. And one who does something of that nature, seen to be such an example for everybody else, is called in the masculine singular a tzaddik. A tzaddik. Let's write that word better. The word tzaddik. Again, we have a patach here. So the dot in that dalid is a strong dot. C-I-N, C-V rather, CVC. Case of a beggar kefa with a dot in it following a short vowel is a strong dot. The second syllable of CVC, long vowel, Nechiric, long vowel, and a closed syllable is irregular, and we'll get the accent. So a righteous one is called tzaddik. Justice is called tzedek. Giving charity is an act of righteous activity, I guess, and hence tzedakah. And in that regard, why not throw in something from Jewish tradition in this area? I know this is Hebrew, but Hebrew is very much involved with the tradition of Jews. There is a phrase that is sung in synagogues during the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur period. It comes from a medieval prayer. It mentions three things can avert the evil decree. One of them is the word teshuvah. One of them is the word tefillah. And the other one is tzedakah. Teshuvah means return. Teshuvah means repentance. Teshuvah has the root of the shin and the bet for the Hebrew word to return. And then just write down the words into syllables. It's C-I-N-C-V, Dagesh Kav in the Kav letter. Last syllable is C-V with a C in brackets. The word tefillah, as I write it on the board, C-I-N-C-V, right? C-I-N-C-V. Second syllable is C-V with the C in brackets for the last letter A. Then tzedakah is C-I-N, C-I-N-C-V, and C-V with C in brackets. And then you have something of this ancient concept, you make it modern. Teshuvah is returning inward. Tefillah is returning upward. And tzedakah is turning outward.
About tshuva is a person who's
About teshuvah is normally referred to as one who basically repents. But notice the language I'm using. Teshuvah, as you say these words, make it personal. It means reflecting inward, seeing who you are, evaluating your characteristics, where you can improve, taking seriously criticism, which is meant to be observation of how you act. Tefillah is dealing with God, turning upward. But it's interesting, the order. You first need to know yourself, Baruch, before you start getting serious with God. Otherwise, your prayers are nothing. Evaluate before you turn upward. And if everything is successful, then the action that you succeeded by doing teshuvah and tefillah is helping others. Tzedakah. Most people say, tzedakah, that's all I got to do. And that is a misconception. So when they come knocking on the synagogue door asking for tzedakah, it's meant for a collective purpose, I guess. I'm not criticizing it.
So let me ask you, who should you give to the rabbi? People collecting money or people out on the street you say need?
Well, that's their way of saying you're doing the third action.
But I'm just saying, in general, what would be the best course? What do you think?
Yeah, well, that's it. And they come into a Beit Knesset with tefillahs all over the place. It has to be done more, in my opinion, more individually.
To help an individual, or you're giving towards the community,
Well,
or
well,
the function of the shul?
well, not true. The individuals make up the community. You have 10 individuals, you have a minyan. The prayer itself was written against a period where Jews were massacred in the Yemei HaBinayim, in the medieval period. And it became the slogan to avert evil decrees. The Jewish community, let's use that term, needs to engage in 3 communal activities: inward, outward, and upward. And there are people today who do acts of that nature.
But realistically, most people would just do without, just do the mitzvahs, do this, do them, then everything
All
else
right.
follows. Because if you wait for that order, then you'll never do it.
Well, the point is, when you do a mitzvah, you have like that tape you showed me. The rabbi emphasized something I've said this on my own tape. The naaseh, and then when you do a naaseh, then start thinking why you're doing the naaseh. But you got to do the naaseh.
Correct.
Oh, there's so much more that can be read into that. Anyway, no need to go any further. But basically, you have still application here. But we have time, so let me.
No, I'm just wondering where we're at.
Okay, I'm now going back to our Hebrew words again. The word tzedakah I did, mainly because to get that lesson across. And then I see a word here that's going to be the word tzuva. The word for yellow, tzehuna. No, tzehuba. See what happens when the eye doesn't see? Tzehuba. So if I don't know that word, I want to see both the unvocalized Hebrew and the vocalized Hebrew. Again, when you study Hebrew, or even when you know some Hebrew, it is always, in my opinion, the first rule, always look at the vocalized Hebrew. I look at the word for yellow, and I notice the spelling of the word is tzadi. The hey has a kibbutz, a short oo sound. The bet letter has a dot in it. And then the unvocalized Hebrew spells it out this way. How would I know, reading unvocalized Hebrew, that this is not a long oo sound? And if so, that word will be tzehuva. How do I know it's pronounced tzehuba? Because I'm looking at the vocalized Hebrew, and I notice it's a short oo sound written without vowels. You put a vav there to create the oo sound. If I were to write just the letters without the vowels of tzehuba, this is the way it will look. How would you know in vocalized Hebrew to read the word as tzehuba? You would not. You need a guide. You need an aid. And the 4 letters that help us are the aleph, the hey, the vav, and the yud. But even then, you need to know the word pronounced.
Those are vowel markers?
The vowel markers, yes. The aleph, the hey, the vav, the yud.
In Hebrew, they're called?
Excuse me?
In Hebrew, how do you say that for vowel markers? Is there a phrase?
Well, otiyot, no, not to my knowledge. I'm sure there are otiyot and those, I don't know. Just the 4 letters, the 4 otiyot. The word ot is a letter. Tsunuah is a vowel. Otiyot, tsunuot, I guess, will be literally a vowel marker. The main thing now is the breaking of the word into syllabication. That word tzehuba, you cannot do it easily with unvocalized Hebrew. With the vocalized, you can see why I have a tzadi with a shvana. How do I know a shvana is underneath here, unless I pronounce my Hebrew correctly? I then continue with the hey letter, and I notice it has a vowel, but the vowel is not a long vowel, as seems to be indicated when you write without vowels, but it's a short kibbutz, and a short vowel needs to be a closed syllable. That explains why I have no question why that dot in that bet letter is not a dagesh kal, but a strong dot, a dagesh hazak. When a beggar kefal letter follows a short vowel, it's going to have a strong dot in it, which means that bet letter is doubled. The first bet closes a vowel before, and the second bet starts the next syllable. So we draw a line in that letter bet, CI and CVC. The bet is doubled, and CV and the last letter hey in brackets. The word for yellow, tsukuba. And then finally, the last word on this particular section is the word salav.
But the question for that on the bat that could have been making it that could have been making it a ba sound as opposed to the b sound. But how you applied it, it was a doubling sound because it followed a short
Okay,
vowel.
okay, I understand what you're saying. What the question or what the comment is this: if we have the letters being doubled, could you please write it out with the doubleization? If you want to make it that way, you can. It will be tsukuv ba. The doubling of that bet. The first one will be spirate, the second one will be plosive.
Spirant means
Spirant means without the dagesh kal. Tsukuv ba. But the word is spelled with one bet, dagesh chazak, tsukuba. People would say tsukuba. If you want to be more accurate, tsukuba.
so if there wouldn't have been that short vowel there, then it could have just been pronounced as a rather than a doubling of the vowel.
No.
It,
The short vowel would be close, tsukuba. You say tsukub, and then you repeat the letter bet again, tsukuba. I know it sounds awkward. The way it is pronounced, tsukub, tsukub, tsukub. That's how it's going to be pronounced. From the point of view of Hebrew grammar, the point you made is even better. Pronounce it as tsuhuv, and then treat the second bet with a dagesh kal, tsuhuv ba. But people don't talk that way. They double it together, tsuhuv ba. So it comes across like a B sound, not like a V in the B. Don't worry about that part. The main thing is the syllabication part. CI and CVC with the doubling of that letter bet. It can be doubled as a vet and a bet, or just simply two bet sounds if you want. It's pronounced that way, sakumba. So people don't say sakuv and then say ba. Whatever. The main thing is to see the syllabication. And then there are different pronunciations, for goodness sakes. The Mizrachim, the Ashkenazim, the Sfaradim. The main thing is a short kubutz.
is there a long kubutz?
Short is long kubutz, but in the word sakuba, it's a short kubutz. There's no, Baruch, you're getting me confused. This is a short kubutz. A long kubutz there isn't. What you have is a shurk.
Oh, okay. But they're both ooh.
Yes, they are. One is the longer sound, ooh, one ooh.
So which one is the longer sound?
The longer one is the shurk.
Oh, and then the.
Look at the chart. Long vowel shurk, the sound is longer. The short vowel, comparatively speaking, is shorter. How many words have a short kubutz? The word that comes to mind right now is shavuot. You take that word shavua, make it now plural weeks, not the holiday shavuot, but the word weeks, shavuot. I got a long shurk here. In the singular, shavua, I have a stolen patach. Get it? Here's your medial kamatz, one place removed from the accent. The accent is on the last syllable. The last syllable is CVC. That patach is not a real vowel. And then when you add the plural marker, the ot, this kamatz now is two places removed, reduced to a shvana. The shuruk will not change. Long vowels don't lose their composition. And the accent is on the last syllable. Long vowel close Irregular should be accented. Shavua and Shavuot. There's no kibutz here. Let's take another word. Let's take a word that's meaningful to some people. A word that Judaism is screaming. We are not a religion of unmarried people. We need generations. And that's why the Haredi community in Israel or on outside of Israel is the only community of Jews that are fulfilling a mitzvah of Peru Uvu. You have 2.2, 2.5. The Mizrahim are a little higher than that. Among the Ashkenazim, you have 10, 15 children to a Haredi family. Well,
That's because they don't have a TV?
Well, that's part of being be fruitful, multiply. Well, before you have to multiply and be fruitful business, you have to have a ketuvah. Now, notice how I say the word ketubah. I don't say ketuvah, it's ketubah.
Marriage contract.
Wait a minute. Writing without vowels, this is how the word is written. I would think the word would be ketubah or ketuvah. Am I right? Ketuvah. Or is it ketubah? How do you say that word for marriage documents?
You're the teacher.
If it's ketuvah, then you have a long vowel, opens up the second syllable. If it's ketubah, then the spelling would be with a kibutz. Ketubah. I'm almost sure it's ketuvah. Here's the difference.
Yeah.
There's short kibutz closed by dagesh chazak. Long vowel shuruk, there's no dagesh chazak in the next letter. So let's double check. Here's a word that's used all over the place, a marriage arrangement, which means a handwriting. The word ketuvah is a handwritten document. And some people say ketuvah and others say ketubah. I say ketuvah with a V sound, which implies it's a shuruk and not a kibutz. But let's just take a look. And again, what if both usages are permissible? That only reflects a living language. Living language are spoken by different groups of people, and each one is legitimate in how they pronounce the word. If so, then you write it accordingly. But let me just take a moment, if you don't mind, everybody, and let me just check that word. It's a document, that's what it means. But specifically, it's for the purpose of marriage. No? I see the word ketivah here for writing or for manuscript. I don't see the word ketuvah. Or maybe I should see it with this. Let's see a second. No, what do you know? A marriage contract is ketubah. A marriage contract is not ketuvah. It's ketubah. It's ketubah. It's ketubah.
With a bet rather than.
Yeah, well, I know it's a bet. I've got a bet out there. That's not the issue, Baruch.
Well, what's correct?
Wait a minute. The question is, if the word is ketubah, let your mind go ahead of mine right now. How would you write ketubah? Would you write ketubah? Let's do it properly. And all who are watching, pay attention. Would I write it this way? Ketubah? If so, then why am I closing a long vowel? It's C-I-N-C-V, C-I-N-C-V, closed by a dagesh chazak. Long vowel shuruk should be part of an open syllable. The word should be read as ketuvah. That should be a vet sound there. It's not. I read the dictionary. It's a as. It's a ba sound, which therefore tells me that the proper spelling is ketubah with a kibutz underneath the top. So it's C-ion, CVC, C-ion, CVC, doubling the bet letter. And the second that means the last syllable, CV with C in brackets. Ketubah. 8 out of 10 times, if not more than that, people say ketuvah.
And it's such an important.
They don't
document.
say ketubah.
I agree with you. That's how I heard.
I'm reading a dictionary. A marriage document is ketubah. Maybe ketubah is some other important document, but a marriage contract is one word, ketubah, not ketuvah. Everybody says ketubah. Tell you what to do. First person you see in the congregation today, better the rabbi. Rebbe, the Sfaradim have better Hebrew. They'll probably say ketubah. The Ashkenazim say ketuvah. And their argument is, "Kacha medabrim," that's how we speak. I'm not questioning that. The question is it grammatically correct? And then you can argue, well, what makes a dictionary authoritative? That's how we work. The dictionary is the spinal source, let's say.
So the dictionary is from the gentleman that invented the Hebrew language?
It so happens that this is the Ben Yehuda dictionary. He's given credit as the father of modern Hebrew.
And the actual set is a 5-book big series rather than one dictionary?
Oh, sure.
I've never seen it, so.
Yeah, Ben Yehuda, well, he worked years on it, and I'm sure he never finished it, so it was continued as tradition. And Ben Yehuda is said to be one of the few Jewish families in Jerusalem, in Jerusalem, spoke only Hebrew in the house. Only Hebrew. The tradition was back in the end of the 19th century, I guess. Yeah, you spoke Hebrew only on Shabbat. Ben Yehuda said, nonsense, every day now. It's a remarkable thing to do. And I would tell you, Baruch, with all due respect, Mizrahim and Sfaradim have the same attitude. If they got something going, they will not compromise it. The Teimanim in particular, don't insult them. They are persistent with their Hebrew pronunciation. They're persistent with saying the letters. They won't call you up for an aliyah at all if you don't say Hebrew the way they do. If you're a guest, fine. I know it for a fact. You cannot get an aliyah. You don't know Hebrew.
And when you're praying,
it's an insult, but that's how strict they are.
You should see when you're because I pray with these different groups, Moroccan, Iraqi.
The Moroccans, I suspect the Moroccans may not be that extreme, but they also have extreme tradition.
But the point is that each one of these has a beautiful melody, and they go into a higher state of prayer, like kind of Kabbalistic prayer meditation, where it's noticed, and you hear it with attainment, it just sounds ancient.
Yeah. Well, look, these are traditions, and you know, for me, it's something to admire. Without that persistence, it would have been lost a long time ago.
Yeah, but they have a tradition which is like no one else. They sit the kids,
well, that's it. I mean,
they sit the kids down with one book and a teacher, and they have them memorize entire books for hours in only like one book. That's why they've been so persistent in preserving it.
Well, let's just talk about that for one moment and get back to Hebrew. It's because my fellow Moroccans, your neighbors, were not Christians that went to a Lutheran church. What the hell do you think goes on in the Islamic community? These kids have to study the Quran day and night, day and night.
Yeah, but you know, it's just an offshoot of Judaism, so they're continuing the same tradition.
And then the Moroccan king himself did not hand over the Jews. He said only Moroccans live here.
No, he's a great protector of the Jews.
How many Christian leaders? Well, that's it. That's where you show a certain respect to them. But they also expect some kind of kavod back in return, I suspect. The Moroccans and the Jews, I think, have a good relationship today.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a sanctuary for them, like Jews in the Ottoman Empire with Turkey. That's why you had Jews there for 500 years to speak Ladino to this day.
Yeah, well, that's a language that has to be revived again, among others.
Yeah. It's their language Yiddish, and I'm working on a project in addition to the Yiddish
Oh,
project,
very good.
a Ladino project. I found an actual person from Turkey that's a Ladino guy, and then I found another guy from a Ladino family that's related to a rabbi. So I'm
Let them
working on
speak
that.
in Ladino.
I'm gonna have them do it. That's why I have to follow up. I'm busy doing this and that.
Okay. All right, let's go on with some more Hebrew now. I want to pick out words. Well, the word Slav. I'm not finished with that word. That word Slav. The question is, why did Miss Kaffa put that word in? It's not a question of religion right now or whatever. The word Slav is a good word to know. It translates as cross, and the word cross is the is a symbol of Christianity. The word Slav. It's good to know that word. Slav. Slav. It's monosyllabic word, CINCVC. If the Slav is the Christian symbol, and Israel is now promoting all kinds of YouTubes showing Christian leadership, as it should. There is now a new ambassador. I have it on my Facebook, where he is the first elected ambassador. He's an Arab Christian Israeli. His job is to speak to 2.5 billion Christians worldwide who invite him about Christianity and its expression in Israel, expressing it as a free religion, and all these type of things which are necessary to be heard by the outside world. So Israel has an official Arab Arab Israeli. Let me use that term. Arab Israeli Christian. That is the title, or that is the ingredients, the condition to be that ambassador of Christian affairs representing the state of Israel.
That's efficiency of resources right there.
Well, anyway, and he speaks very good English. His talk was in English. The word Slav. If the word Slav is the Christian symbol, then Magen David is the Jewish symbol. Let's just get down that word, Magen David. Magen is the Hebrew word for shield, Shield. The Torah, if you mind me saying it, doesn't have a special symbol. So people, if they want to have a symbol of Judea, whatever, I don't know what they will pick. Judea as the lion, and every tribe had its own little sigma or its own little style. But that word Magen David is well beyond the period of King David himself. The word is the shield of David, and this form that it takes looks like two triangles, and the other one is superimposed upon it. The triangle is the Greek letter D, the delta. So David is the two D's.
But in delta in chemistry is usually to indicate a change in temperature.
Of what?
It's used to indicate change in temperature. To my understanding.
Indicate change in temperature?
In like chemistry and physics.
Okay.
Delta,
Anyway, the shield of David, etc. There are all kinds of problems with that symbol, and the same thing with the Slav. The traditional Slav in Western tradition, I guess, looks like this. But if you go amongst certain types of Christians, their cross is much different. It depends on traditions, I guess. Anyway, back to our Hebrew again. All right, as I'm taking a look now on page 21, I want to pick just a couple words. I want to finish this whole unit when we finish our shiur today. Okay, words that have some interesting implications. I see the word kruta on page 21, second line from the top. The word kruta. And I guess the reason why I'm emphasizing that word kruta is something I've said several times and deserves to be repeated again and again. Hebrew language has borrowed words in it. You cannot tell the word is borrowed unless I tell you the word stranger is a borrowed word. It's a word meaning from another language. But the word kruta is a good word to know. How many Israelis say that word? I presume quite a few of them do, because they're guilty of junk. I'm going to double check the spelling. Spelled with a kamas aleph at the end. And any word that has a kamas aleph at the end for a noun, you get suspicious. If the word has a kamatse, fine, but a kamatz aleph can also be the marker of an Aramaic word. Aramaic. Kruta is Aramaic. It's not a Hebrew word. And we vocalize it, looks like Hebrew. CI and CV, you see how I'm doing this? The Gimel has a Zegesh Kal, Shvan not need the Gimel. The Resh has a Shuruk, and the last syllable is CVC. So Professor Garber, did you not say if the last letter is a Hey, it's a vowel marker? If the last letter is an Aleph, it's a vowel marker? I did say that, but I also said if the word is Hebrew. I'm telling you, this word is Aramaic. And Aramaic we'll treat a little differently. Next question. How come Hebrew doesn't have the word for junk?
That's an actual Aramaic word?
This is an Aramaic word. How come Hebrew doesn't have the word for junk? Because Hebrew, my dear listeners, at one time was destined, was authored, was created to be a Lashon Kodesh. Lashon, tongue, Kodesh, holy, separate from all others. In the holy language, you don't have words that are distorted. There's no curse word in Lashon Kodesh. Are you not aware of this? All curse words in Hebrew are Arabic, or they come from English, or Jewish. There's only one word that can serve as a curse word, but that word is legitimate.
What is it?
Mamzer.
Mamzer.
And it deals.
That's misuse. That's possibly like a bastard, right?
No, Mamzer deals with birth, deals with
legitimate relationship. But
yes,
if a husband is married and has relationship with
That's
another woman that is a mantra or their brothers and sisters, then it doesn't necessarily apply to reverse for a woman. But the thing is, how do they use it today? What does it call
No,
bastard
the mums is the equivalent of saying in English illegitimate rather than saying the word bastard.
Illegitimate.
Have you?
Mantra could be like inbreed too.
No, but what I'm trying to say is curse words that we have in English today.
So if you call someone a mantra, what would you call them?
Well, you're using the word derogatorily.
Right. What would they mean? Like bastard or what
That's exactly what you mean. It's a cursing, but the word itself occurs in the Lashon HaKodesh, and it's used there as part of legitimate or illegitimate marriages, or legitimate or illegitimate births, or whatever is involved
here. And what about tipesh? Tipesh is from the Torah?
Which what?
Tipesh?
Tipas?
Tipesh. Tipesh, like idiot. Tipesh. My roommate always called me that. And I watched Fada and then looked on the subtitles. And then he called me that for a year and a half every day in the morning. Hey, Bucker told Tipesh. And I was watching Fada, and Tipesh meant like idiot. How do you say idiot in Hebrew? You don't know? All right. Probably different words.
Tipesh, maybe.
Yeah, that's the one. I don't know.
Okay, well, I didn't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right, but the point is regular curse words, the S word, for example, other words like that, just don't exist. And the Mamzer word does exist, but the word, again, is used for birth, illegitimacy, etc.
What about Zona? Zona?
Zona is a legitimate, wait a minute, it's a legitimate word. It's not a curse word. You can use it as a curse word, but it's not. It's the word prostitute. Prostitute is not the same as the word whore. You say whore, you're being more derogatory about it.
But you could use in that sense.
If Zona, wait a minute, Zona is used in Hebrew, Lashon HaKodesh, but it's used in a legitimate sort of way.
But in modern Israeli Hebrew, it's meant to mean whore. I mean,
Israeli Hebrew would use that word differently. It might be the same word, but Israeli Hebrew does not speak Lashon HaKodesh. It speaks Safa Ivrit. No, wait a minute now. You're going too fast. The word Safa, Safa Ivrit. Ivrit stays in the language, all right. But the word Safa is different than Lashon. Safa are the lips that you use. Lashon is the tongue that you use. We don't say Lashon Ivrit today. We say Safa Ivrit. That's why certain groups of Haredim, on principle, will not speak any kind of Israeli Hebrew. They feel it violates the sacredness of the Lashon HaKodesh.
So they speak like Shakespearean or biblical Hebrew? Wherefore art thou?
Lashon HaKodesh would be your biblical Hebrew. Lashon HaKodesh would be rabbinical Hebrew. The Mishnah, for example, it's expressed in Hebrew. The Hebrew is not the cursed Hebrew you might say of Safa Ivrit today. The very fact that we have two different words, one is tongue, one is language. This is the word for language today. The word tongue, I guess, implies more intimacy, more sacredness. And all I was saying is that one word, mamzer. All other curse words are borrowed, quote unquote. The same thing goes with Yiddish. The Jews have a language that's full of curses, whether the Sephardim know it or not, and that language is Yiddish. Yiddish is full of curse words. You don't know the meaning of it. If I say patz to you, so what's... All those words are Yiddish oriented. And again, it reflects the country from which it comes from.
But now in America, people even goyim use schmuck like this. Oh,
yes, they do. That's why in English today, you have a brand of English recognized as Yinglish. This word is not invented by me. English is Yiddish integrated into English. Like you said, common words. Kosher is probably a good example.
That's what people say. Everything's kosher. Like you said, like everything's documented, legal.
Right,
that's
right.
I's dotted, T's crossed, etc.
But words of more of a cursing nature. Your putz. That's very common Hollywood language. But then again, Hollywood's run by Jews. You go on with that type of thing.
Ashkenazi Jews for the main part.
Particularly, the Sephardim really are. They're on the corners. They're not in the middle of this. Yeah. Okay, let's just go on now. The word kruta, I guess, was meant to just indicate that the word is Aramaic. In fact, if you want to have the Hebrew of that word kruta, it's kruta. I have a little note here. In Hebrew, that word has become kruta. Kruta is Aramaic. Hebrew in Safat Ivrit, we have a new word now. Well, it's not a new word. Might say in Israel, I didn't have that exposure, but there's the word kruta. So this is what Israeli Hebrew does. It takes that word kruta and adds a comma saying. This is the Hebrew word that translates kruta. Kruta, which tells me that the average Israeli today serves the IDF, whatever, doesn't know kruta. He's probably, or she's probably more familiar with kruta. And I find it interesting. The Aramaic has a masculine, Kamas Aleph is a masculine ending, and Israeli Hebrew has a feminine ending, kruta. Go figure that out. As if to imply the feminine gender is responsible for junk in Israel today. Not really, it's just simply
developed. Everyone? I say everyone.
How's that?
Everyone?
What do you mean everyone?
Everyone collectively together. What is the word? For us, we, they, that would be them. Them or us.
Okay. Kol echad means everyone. So much the word everyone.
Yeah.
Kol echad.
Kol echad.
Okay.
Want to take a break?
Let me just get down. No. Let me get one more word down. Okay, the word geshamim. The word geshamim. One more word. This time we do something that we've done already before, and it's important that we have that type of sense. You see a word, and the question is, can you come up with the singular? Well, as I write out the word, it looks very masculine, as for the Kirkwood men, but what is a singular? Here is where the mind thinks of the singular noun, the shva, the kamatz, the Kirkwood men. The singular for the word rains, R-A-I-N-S, is the word geshem. Rain, geshem, rains, geshamim. Yeled, yeladim. It's not geshemim, but geshamim. That's where the whole language helps us right now. Okay.
I have a question. The part of Israel, or of Egypt that was fertile, where the Jews went and they established their yeshivas, is it related to the word Geshem, Gosham? My Hebrew's not good, so you probably don't understand me. I read everything related to Torah.
Are you asking, is Goshen related to Geshem?
Yes.
It's very possible. I don't know.
They went there as a fertile area. They said
I understand that. The question, the spelling will be the same. Goshen would have this type of spelling. Yomi Goshen. Has the same root letters, no question about it. It's very possible.
Trying to see things by the root letters and trying to make the association, like you said. There's always a root letter in the middle of prefix and ending. Or
if you see that word, wait a minute. If you see, has the same roots. Okay. I want to finish up the units, so I'll be selective of the words that we use. Yeah, we can finish it, just a couple more pages. Okay.
no problem. You want to take a break? Let's take a break. Well, if you want to continue, it's up to you. You're the teacher.
If you want, I could give a little Dvar Torah too, but I need.
No, not right now. Well, we need to focus on the class.
Oh, maybe